And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the Parax Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight, those in the chat room and those listening from around the world. We appreciate each and every one of you. Tonight we are doing a live event from Gettysburg, from a place that's called the Haunted Trails of Gettysburg, and we'll be finding out all about that in just a little bit. I want to thank everybody that's in the chat room with us tonight, and those listening from around the world. We appreciate each and every one of you. If y'all do have questions tonight, you can private chat them to either Ceiling Cat, Jeffrey Gould, or myself, Henry Foister, and we will get those answered for you. We have a lot of people that's going to be talking tonight because I've been here Friday, all day Friday, and had a bunch of guests that was with me going around on the battlefield and everything. So we'll try and get some of them to talk with us tonight, and a whole bunch. We just got a big show lined up for tonight. So with that, I want to say we got Jeffrey Gould with us.
You can, because I'm here.
Good. And we got Barbara Duncan.
I am here.
All right. So with that, I guess Jeff can't introduce the guests because
we're in Gettysburg tonight, in some place called Trails of Gettysburg, whatever that is.
He doesn't really have
what exactly does that consist of? The Haunted Trails. You're not on a dirt path somewhere, are you?
No, it's a home that has, and I'll let them tell you about it, what it is. Okay, so first of all, we're going to bring on Brian Phillips, who is the head of Ghost Pit, and who their team came out to start actually investigating the place. And then we have with us Amanda Thomas, who is the owner, and I believe you're also a member of Ghost Pit.
Well, they're part of our family. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
We like it that way better.
Okay. So let's start off first with Brian. And what is Ghost Pit? What do you do? How did you manage to come here?
Well, our team consists of 9 members. We investigate private residences, businesses. We do cleansings, pretty much A to Z with the paranormal. We were very fortunate to meet Amanda and Terry last year at our paranormal fair in Chambersburg. They came and were vendors and donated ticket sales to the theater, which was a benefit for their programs. We came out here, we spent some time with them, got to know them as people first and their family, and slowly started doing some looking around, brought some equipment down, and really had a blast not only spending time with them as people, but also getting to know the spirits that are on the property.
And Amanda, because you guys already knew, you had them come in to do it. How did you manage to come to this place? And I guess you bought it.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So we actually started coming to Gettysburg almost 6 years ago, and we came here on our honeymoon, and we wanted to live here ever since then, and we had been trying for years on end to move here, and I actually came across this house and property on Zillow, and the months had passed, and I kept looking at it, and the price kept dropping on it. And I kept wondering why the price was dropping on it, and I was soon to find out why nobody wanted the house or the property.
So they figured it was more like a money pit than a ghost pit? I just don't.
Hey, that should have been my line. That was a good one, though.
Yeah, good point.
That's why I'm here. So is that ghost pit with 1 T or 2 T's like Pittsburgh? Or
No, that is all capital letters, 1T. It's the PIT actually stands for Paranormal Investigation Team.
Okay.
So that's what PIT stands for. But we just kind of one day we came up with a name, and I made PIT capitalized and decided that that's what those letters would stand for. There's no dots in there. It just, I don't know, it kind of fit. It's kind of, the PIT stands for a place for everybody to gather and have a safe place to discuss either their experiences, their feelings, without any prejudice or any repercussions for talking about it. You know, everybody's stories and feelings are welcome.
Do you have a website? Because I can't seem to find...
we are on Facebook only because I found that trying to manage a website and Facebook was just way too much. So we are at www.facebook.com/paranormal219.
All right. You guys are going to have to talk some here now.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that, Ghost Pit is not where ghosts go to change their ectoplasm.
No, they do not. If that's the case, then I'm going to come out of the pit because that's just not clean. And we get into a lot of places that are dirty anyway. So we try and keep the pit clean. But, back to what Amanda was saying, about finding the property, it's not just the house. There's 6+ acres of encampment land. They fought a battle right across what is now Route 15. They retreated back to what is their property now and camped here. Terry, right, Amanda, he metal detected 1/4 of an acre and has found just an ungodly amount of artifacts.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, last week, his friend and him were metal detecting over by one of our trees, and they found a Confederate spent Confederate bullet and a belt buckle and a coin. We actually had a friend that his brother is a historian here in Gettysburg, and he's the one that found out the history on our property and found out that we also had not only encampments, we also had our land was used as Confederate Field Hospital, and we had no clue the history of the house or the property when we bought it. We just wanted to move to Gettysburg. We knew that we had to be in Gettysburg no matter what the house needed or looked like. We just wanted to be here, and then come to find out, we find out that it was extremely haunted and a lot of wonderful history, which is really good because we're both Civil War buffs and we love the paranormal as well. So house is meant for us, and that's my belief.
Are you recreationists in garb and stuff?
Do
you dress? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have a Civil War dress that I normally wear, not wearing tonight because of the mud, but yeah, I have a connection. I don't know if you believe in past lives or not, but I think that I lived in Gettysburg in my last life, so
really,
this is just like home to me. Yeah, when we used to vacation here after our honeymoon, because we come here every year with our kids, I would cry when I left Gettysburg because I knew that this was my home, and I felt like I was leaving my home.
Wow. So when you moved into the house, what were some of the first things that you noticed that was actually happening?
Well, the very first paranormal experience I had was with my daughter and I. So the top part of our house, the second story of our house, was down to the bare bones, and so we all had to sleep in the living room while we were doing the construction upstairs. And so we were all sleeping in the living room, and ironically my oldest daughter and I both woke up at the same time, and we looked at each other and we heard somebody walking in our kitchen, just walking around. Our kitchen is very old and the floor is very squeaky, so and we hadn't had our cats here yet, so we knew, it wasn't an animal or anything. And it was, it was like, did we really both just hear that and wake up at the same exact time? It was very strange, but my daughter was like, Mom, I'm too tired, just go back to sleep. So we went back to sleep, and then when we woke up, we told everybody in the morning, what had happened to us, and that was our very first paranormal experience, was somebody walking around in the kitchen. I mean, I had already knew that the house was haunted when I bought it, because I'm an empath, so I can feel things, but I didn't know that it was this haunted. I mean, we experience something every single day. There's not been a day that I personally myself has not experienced something. Yeah.
Well, you certainly got your money's worth then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, when you found that out, is that when you had him come in, or did he already know it? Did you already?
No, we actually they moved in the year during that last year. Mm-hmm. We didn't actually meet them until October of last year with the fair. But one of the things that I was excited about tonight, and I'm just going to say this off the topic here because I'm watching our closed circuit that we have set up. This is actually supposed to be an investigation during the show, and I'm watching members of my team just hanging out by the campfire, having a good time. For a bunch of investigators, there's not a whole lot of investigating going on, so I think they're just enjoying spending time with each other and you guys being here. So I think it's really funny that I get to watch them, and they have no idea that I can see every single thing they're doing. So that one of the cool things about all the toys that we use, they don't really realize where I set the cameras. And they're probably going to wish I did, because I'm going to put this on our page because it's just too funny. Now, the cool thing for us is, again, and I said this before, they welcomed us into their home as people first. And we didn't look at it as an opportunity. Yes. I did not want it to be an opportunity for us. They actually approached us about doing public investigations for them. So everything we get ticket-wise, it goes directly to them for the restoration of the property, the upkeep of the property. So for us, it's more about meeting the people that want to come and have the opportunity to have an experience. We don't guarantee ever, because, we don't force the spirits to do anything. It's always up to them. We always leave it up to them, and we try and put people into the hot spots that we've experienced the activity in, to give them the best chance of getting, that contact, that close reaction from the other side. So what's important to me is getting, and establishing that level of trust with the spirits that are here, instead of extorting, the fact that they're here. We know they're here. They know we're here, and we're on their turf.
Right.
This was their home. This was their final resting place for some. So for us to come in and trample on that respect and that, that's not what it was about for us.
Now, when you say you were experiencing paranormal activity there, what types of activity were you experiencing?
Well, we've walked the trails before at night, and you can hear footsteps walking behind you. And one instance I'm going to share, because it blew my mind when it happened. It was one of the first times we were out here to see the trails, and we were walking out as a group. Miley, who's our little youngest member, she's 10, she was walking with Terry and I, and Amanda and Suzanne were walking farther back, and I could see Miley out of the corner of my eye, right off my right hip. She was walking with us, and the closer we got to the house, I went to turn around and ask Miley what she thought of the trails, and when I turned around, she was at least 50 yards away from Terry and I, standing with Amanda and Suzanne over by the fire pit. And I looked at Terry, and Terry looked at me, and we both said, "You saw a little person standing off my hip." And he said, "Yeah," and I thought it was Miley. And we both shined our lights over and could see Miley 50 yards away. There was no way she had time to make it from us to where they were standing in the period of time that it took for us to turn around. So that was, right off the bat, one of the very first experiences we had. The basement is off the charts. I mean, I really hope someday, anybody listening gets a chance to come here, if they come to Gettysburg, check this place out, because the basement is just unbelievable.
So when you say a little person, you're saying it looked like a child, or
Yeah.
it looked like, Peter Dinklage or something?
No, it was a child. Miley's, she's not real short, but she's not real tall, and she's 10 years old. So I knew there was a child off my right side, and when I turned around and did not see her standing there, I knew what I saw to the corner of my eye. There was no denying it, because Terry saw her too. She was walking with us at one point. I'm not going to say she was never there with us to begin with. She was walking with us. The only problem is, when we got between the garage and the house, I thought she was still walking with us, because I could almost feel her behind me. Because she's kind of tuggy when it's dark. She's part of a paranormal team, but she doesn't get, not being afraid of the dark kind of thing. So I could feel her there. That was the weirdest part, when I turned around and she wasn't there.
Wow.
So it's,
So when you found out that the house was actually haunted, did you start doing research about the Civil War, if maybe there'd been fighting or soldiers here?
No, we really didn't at first. I know that we also, I think it was several weeks after we bought it, when we had come down, to do more construction on the house. My son actually is the one that found the first grave. He hit it with the lawnmower and came running in the house, worried that he broke the lawnmower on a gravestone. And then that's when we found Mary, and her grave was all covered up. Her stone was just buried under brush, and it was really just kind of sad that she was just kind of neglected. And then we found the second one, which we believe is Walter, and we believe that he was a Confederate. But we didn't really start doing the history, finding out the real history. We did that probably when we had another paranormal group come in, and that was last year. So we didn't really, I guess we just didn't really think about it at the time. We were just so busy, like, doing the construction and that kind of thing. So
when you found the graves, how'd you find out the names? Was there a name on the grave?
yes.
So did you find a history of the people?
So Mary, who her grave is clearly marked. We were told by one of the Sanders brothers, who they owned the house prior to the old lady who owned it, and they're the ones that the road's named after. They said that she was a 2-day-old baby that died in the 1900s and was buried at the tree. But they don't. The guy is really weird about it. He said they don't like to talk about her. So I'm not sure
How she died?
Yeah, there's a little weird suspicion in me about that, about her death. So, and back in those days, stuff like that would have been brushed under the rug, because they just didn't talk about stuff like
Right.
that. So that's the only real history that we have on her. We just know what we get paranormal wise with her, like pictures or EVPs and stuff like that. And the other one, Walter, we just know he's a Confederate from all the paranormal stuff that we get, and his stone is actually pretty messed up. All you can make out on it is like a W and an A. So,
Are there any records that you can go look up and see who they would have been, or?
We haven't done any of the records. I know that Sons of Confederacy has been trying to do the records for Walter. They did come across one Walter, but they couldn't find any more information on him. So we're not really sure. It's kind of just speculation for that.
Do you know how old the house is when it was actually built?
So the front part of our house was built in 1820, and the addition was added on sometime in the 1900s. But if you go in our cellar, we have an original, like the front part of our house is an original stone cellar, and you can see it's got like trees. Trees are actually holding up our house.
Really?
In our cellar, yeah. So it's all like hand honed trees in the cellar. So
it is a real tree, by the way, because I've hit my head on it quite a few times. It's a common occurrence, and it
so
hurts.
that gives a clue on how old she is. And our floors, like our second story, our floors it kind of gives you the fun house effect because all the floors are uneven. And I know the one Sanders, it's
like
pretty
the mystery spot house.
Yeah, it really truly is. It kind of. Some people are like, "Whoa, fun house effect." I'm like, "Yeah, don't go upstairs." But yeah,
don't touch ball bearings.
Yeah, it is. I know the Sanders brother, the one guy. I feel bad for him. He's always coming over to our house, telling us that we need to change it back to how it was when he was growing up. And I know he's like 86 years old. So, and he was born and raised in the house. So. We were told that there could have been a log cabin on it before. I don't know how true that is, but I just know you can tell how old she is by our stone cellar and just the stuff that we have found in the cellar as well. We found a CSA button in the cellar. Actually beautiful shape, and then I think my husband also found a belt buckle in the cellar, so I'm sure the cellar was used to store bodies, with
Well,
it being
Mrs. Bates
cold.
isn't down there anymore.
Yeah.
So if I
Yeah.
can go back to the gravestones for a second, was that part of a family graveyard, or were these just impromptu grave sites?
That I'm not really sure about. I know that Mary would have probably been part of the family, and then I think Walter was just a Confederate that was probably buried out here. Now we were told that there could be other bodies buried here that could have unmarked graves, which would make sense because during the Civil War, Confederates, they didn't care about them, so they would just throw them in mass graves and throw dirt over them, and they were never honored or recognized, which that's what we're trying to do out here. Is we're trying to teach people not only the paranormal but also the history of the Civil War, and we want to honor them and respect them and give them gratitude that they never got. A lot of people don't understand about the Civil War, and we just try to teach them the true facts of it. And so it's pretty sad.
Yeah, there was a case for ground penetrating radar equipment. That would be it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could find a lot that way.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. I would love for somebody to be able to come out and do that. That would be awesome.
Now, you have what's known as the Haunted Trails. Is that trails that goes out through your woods? How much land do you have?
We have close to about 7 acres. And the trails go all in the woods, and we have them all made up, and we have little lantern type things to light the way for people to explore, and we tell people the hot spots of where they might get something, and we take people to the graves and show them and explain what might have happened, and just different things like that.
So how did you find out that the trails were haunted? I mean, what led you to find trails, put it that way?
Yeah, because they weren't. It was just all woods. We just got like this idea in our head about making trails, and it's weird because we had people come out here all the time, and they would say that they felt like there was people staring at them through the woods, and even my kids would be like, they're watching us, Mom. They're watching us from the woods. And that's when we got the idea, well, maybe we need to make trails and have people go in the woods to talk to them and communicate with them so they can get their voices heard, because they hadn't had their voices heard in many, many years.
So do you think that the spirits that are out there are Confederate or Union soldiers or people?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I think there's Confederate, Union, and I believe that there's Native Americans out there as well. And we were also told that there is car accident victims.
Because there's a highway right here beside the property.
Yep. So I honestly think, in my opinion, and we've been told this too, that from a few psychics, that we have a portal out here. And that is my belief. I think that they gather here on our woodland, and I think too that they know that Terry and I was told that the house didn't choose us, the spirits did, and I believe that because I think that they knew that Terry and I would help them. Whatever it is they need help, they've told us numerous times for us to help them. So, and I don't know if it's for them to get their voices heard or, I'm not sure exactly what they want, but we will do whatever it takes to help them.
Good. Barbara, Jeff?
No, I'm listening. It's fascinating.
I wanted you to talk, not just listen.
Well, fine. I was earlier when they were talking about the trees holding up the house. I was thinking, at least when the internet people come by, they can find the trunk lines.
They're massive trees holding the house up. It's crazy.
I look forward to coming out there if Craig ever gets that movie done. Gettysburg is a great room, apparently. I can hear the laughter from the distance there. So.
We actually have, there's two. We have one of our events is a camp out, and they actually have one in July that's a camp out where people can actually bring a tent and find a spot on the property and pitch a tent and sleep. So I'm actually going to sleep in the basement. I picked my spot. I want the basement just with a closed circuit camera because I'm a sucker for punishment.
So
isn't it colder down there though?
Absolutely, but that's half the fun, We have been in some pretty unfortunate locations where there has been no heat or no cold air. I mean, we've been in places where we've slept in 97-degree temperatures in the house, no windows open, no air conditioning. We've been as cold as 27 degrees in a location that was being set to be renovated, so they had no heat, they had nothing, and that adds to the fun of the investigation, because if you decide to put yourself in the situation that they're stuck in, if the building's cold, they're stuck in the cold, whether they feel it or not, that's irrelevant.
I was going to say, if they're
Right.
sort of like, why are you shivering?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're looking at us, and that's the one thing when we talk to people, that they say they're afraid of seeing a ghost, and that's one thing we try and teach them, that is scared of we are of them. Put yourself in their shoes and think of what they see when they see us. You know, we're wearing ball caps right now. Me and Henry are. You know, some of us have jeans on and, you know, different colored shirts. So when we go to a place of a time period that had nothing to do with those type of, you know, clothing pieces, think about what they think when they see us and who are these people.
Right.
You know,
Dungarees and denim jeans were actually around during the Old West and even, I believe, the war between the states as well.
okay,
They've been around for a long time.
they definitely
I mean,
aren't
they
the
may not
kind
be
I'm
stylish
wearing.
as-
Right.
Mine aren't that old.
Right. Most of theirs is bib overhauls.
So I want the basement. But hopefully I'll have a flashlight and I won't hit the tree trunks because they're huge. But I challenge anybody to go walk these trails for even 5 minutes and not get the heebie-jeebies, so to say, because you just feel the energy just watching you. You don't feel it on you. You feel
Right.
it watching you.
Right.
You know, and it's amazing just to feel. You know, we're our own best piece of equipment.
Well, that would be a fascinating experience for me because when I go on investigations, especially places that are reputably to be very haunted, I don't really sense being watched or all that. And it's not that, and as a Taurus, I tend to look at stuff very rationally. And
Yep.
if I hear something fall in another room and everyone else jumps out of their skin, I'm walking to the other room to find out what fell down.
Right,
and they're like, "Why are
exactly.
you going that way?" I'm like, "That's where the sound
came.
from."
Yep.
You know, and so I'm a nyctophile. I love the darkness, and I have no problem walking around with very little light or less. So yeah, I would probably be walking down like, oh, it's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. I don't carry a
unless something
flashlight.
whispers in my ear, which I've had happen.
Yep.
It's pretty much sort of like, oh yeah, this is very nice.
Now, I want to thank you guys for inviting us to come here to do the show. But you also, in conjunction, were doing an event here. You've got people that's come in to investigate, and we've got people all on the outside. Is there some in the basement already investigating, or
They're not. I know they're waiting to see the piece of video that I believe your son, when he was sitting in here, was watching the closed circuit, and I came in to see how things were going, and he was in here by himself, and he turned around and asked me if there was anybody in the basement, and I knew there wasn't because we were all outside, and he actually said that he saw a shape, a dark shadow, move behind one of the pillars that are down there and peek around the other side. So I've been close watching the closed circuit while I've been in here talking. No, the rest of my team's still out by the fire, just kind of hanging out. I'm not sure what the
hanging
party
out.
is out there. I don't know if they're waiting on pizza, beer. I don't know what's going on. But
I didn't know we was
don't
going to
see any
get pizza and
marshmallows?
beer.
I think they're just having fun, spending time with each other, and that's what I love about this the most is, you know, you guys come out, have a good time. If some of your people want to check the place out, there's more than enough stuff and people to do that with. But I love spending time with everybody. You know, you guys, I've gotten to know you guys over the last year. To give Haunted Trails of Gettysburg, you know, the rightful thing, you know, the recognition for what they have and definitely what is going on here is what was important to me. We've investigated here before. You guys, I don't know time-wise what you're going to have, but it's just been, today's been a blast. Having you guys here and talking with you guys and sharing the stories of ours that we have from here is what this has been about for me.
Well, thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
absolutely.
And we like I say, we got lists.
Yeah, that's good because I'm tired of talking. I want to hear somebody else talk.
I think you want to
I talk all the time. I want to go figure out what's going on outside and what's so good about that fire pit.
Well, like I say, we can always get you back on a little bit later. And I know you was hollering that you didn't even want to say anything.
No.
But since you own the house, you had
know.
we had to get you on to tell about the house
Absolutely.
and how everything got started.
It was easy, wasn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
was easy.
Thank you so much.
What is the best, I guess, episode that you've had with spirits here? Have you actually heard them, or
Yes,
have you,
I would say like the best, like hearing with my own ears, the best thing that's ever happened, like that really made my stomach drop, is my son and I were home alone. It was just him and I, and we were in my living room, and we're standing there talking. I had been cleaning all day because the contractors, they made my house a dusty mess, so I was like cleaning straight for like 8 hours. And my son and I, we heard somebody walking down our stairs, coming from upstairs, literally like stomping. And then we heard a man moan as loud as can be, like one of those really annoyed moans from a man from when a woman has been cleaning all day and they're like annoyed that she will not stop cleaning. That's the kind of moan that I got. And I knew that whoever he was annoyed that I had been cleaning all day and that I was still cleaning. And it was really unreal that we even heard it. I mean, it was just crazy. It scared my son so bad that he literally shoved me so hard I almost fell. And he ran out the front door. And I was standing there just in shock. Like, I couldn't even move. I was like paralyzed because I couldn't believe what we just heard. And, you know, here I'm standing there waiting to see somebody, but luckily I didn't see anybody, because I probably would have fallen to my knees if I would have seen a full apparition. But I really had to convince my son to come back in the house, because he said he was not coming back in the house after hearing that. That to me is the best thing that we've ever heard and felt, really, with our own ears. You know, it was truly remarkable, and like it scared me. I will say that I think it scared me more because I just really wasn't expecting it, and for my son to hear it as well, you know, because sometimes you hear things and you think, oh well, maybe I'm just crazy, you know, and I mean, I know I'm crazy, but you know, sometimes will be by myself or something, and I'll hear something and just think, well, oh, maybe I'm just hearing things. But you know, they say your eyes can play tricks on you, but I don't really necessarily believe your ears can play tricks on you. So
everything that you see. No.
Yeah. So
well, every so often there are articles that seem to imply, well, you're near some sort of ELF signals that are making your brain synapses hear stuff. But I would say if the ghost is really annoyed that the cleaning's going on, just tell him to grab a dust rag and help.
Yeah, I know, right?
I got a message in the chat room for you guys. They said, hello from New York. Please tell the Haunted History Trails peeps hello from Ted and Cindy.
Oh, yes. Hi, Ted and Cindy.
There you go. So we
in
got
Manhattan, New York, or New York State?
They didn't say. Just says from
New York, because I'm from
New York,
New York area. So
yeah. So,
but they could be, upstate.
We already have quite a few people in the chat room. I want to thank you for that. And if you do have questions, you can private chat them to H. Foister or Ceiling Cat or Jeffrey Gould, and we will get those right over to be answered. And I have lots of other people here that's, oh, look who it is.
You tried to hide, Henry. I found you.
Yeah, I know.
That's right, Mike.
I'm going to go look for ghosts now.
All right, you go look for ghosts. I want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you very, very much.
anything happens, you guys can
Quick
come
side
back
note,
on and tell us.
Brian, you and I are already friends on Facebook. Amanda, I just
Yes.
sent you a friend request, just so you know.
Okay.
And I've liked your Ghost Pit page, and I'm going to put the link onto the report page and all that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Just so you know, we do record the show, and we'll save it into a podcast.
So
Jeff,
everything you say can and will be used against you.
That's fine.
Jeff takes and writes synopsis up on the whole show, and he posts that separate. So when he posts the show or sends it out, let you know, you can go and read all that, what he puts on there.
Cool. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Batters up.
All right. Well, thank you. We're going to get some other people in here. I mean, I've got right now. I got the Paranormal Man Mike on, and I've got who you got next, Don, and there's another chair. So, Pat, Darcy, either one, doesn't matter. Get up. Just so you guys know, I got another friend that just come in, and I know Don, you haven't met him. Have you met him yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is Pat McCormick. He's with the Ghost Soldiers. Matter of fact, normally I have my Ghost Soldiers hat on, but
Yeah, where is it?
well, this one he got for me for my birthday one time, so I had to wear it. That's my son Tim. Yeah. And so we'll get Pat McCormick on here in just a little bit. I haven't got to see him for a while, and always love being with him. So, have you guys investigated any around the house or anything?
I have not yet. I'm looking forward to doing some.
Okay. Here's what's happened, though. Ever since Thursday night, all these people here has been with me and my son Tim. My son Tim came over for the first time to Gettysburg with me, which I'm proud of that. But we have had nothing but fun the whole 3 days, and I want to thank everybody that does come to be with us when we come to Gettysburg. I want to thank you for doing that.
Well, we always enjoy you being here.
Well, thanks.
And I appreciate the invitation to be here. It is fun.
So
Well,
it's good
good.
to see you, Henry.
Well, you have to get up close to the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Henry, remember this is radio, so fully introduce full names as to who's there. I know Patrick McCormick said, "Yay, hi Pat."
Well,
But who else?
He's
Said-
passing out on the mic yet. He'll be up next. We have Don
Fine.
Allison.
Don Allison. Okay.
Yeah, he wrote the book Met a Ghost in Gettysburg, and I met more ghosts in Gettysburg.
Right.
We have Darcy
McGrath.
McGrath. And
And Henry, you forgot to mention Don's new book. I met Henry Foister at Gettysburg.
oh yeah. Believe it or not,
Actually, I did meet Henry
yes.
at
That would
Gettysburg.
make a good book, wouldn't it?
that's where it happened.
I have a new project in mind
Yeah.
now.
And we got Mike, Paranormal Man, on. So
Hi, everyone.
I guess we can talk a little bit about when you're investigating here in Gettysburg. You come down quite often, and you even had your book about meeting a ghost in Gettysburg.
Yes. And it was actually an experience I had at Sachs Bridge that led me to write the first paranormal book, and that is where the title came from. Literally with an SB7 spirit box, talked to an entity. He gave his name, said he was a captain from Ohio. I got home and investigated, looked into the historical record, and the name checked out. He was a real captain from Ohio, wounded on the first day's fight, captured, and died on July 3rd, the third day of the fight. Quite possibly died at Sachs Bridge as a POW.
These guys are acting crazy again.
Again?
Yeah. It's been that way the whole time. But so then you started coming back quite often.
Yes, the Gettysburg is just a phenomenal place to investigate. I mean, the activity here is just nothing short of amazing to me. And I never was into the paranormal until fairly recently. I was very skeptical. I didn't believe my own grandmother telling me that she had lived in a haunted parsonage in Louisiana. But I do believe her now after some experiences I've had.
Well, good. And Darcy, you from Iowa.
Correct.
Is that where you was born, or
Yes.
no? So you're actually An Iowan.
I am an official born and bred Iowan, yeah.
So, how did you start coming to Gettysburg? Because you come fairly regular, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. I've been involved in parapsychology probably for about 30 years. And traveled quite a bit, done a lot of consultation work, got a lot of my education under the Ryan Research Center at near Duke, and worked with Professor Lloyd Auerbach out in California, training under him for a while. So a lot of my stuff has been field work, and with one foot in field work and one foot in parapsychology. But I've always had a love for history. Absolutely loved it. It's something that my father and I share. And so the movies on TV, we watched them together. I read a lot of books, and I'm a voracious reader. And I ended up researching a place in south of central Iowa that actually had Civil War ties, and I was really quite shocked by that, because you don't hear a lot about the Civil War in Iowa. There are no battlefields there, per se. But after researching that house for 5 years, it was incredibly active. Got to know the Civil War soldiers that died there under the care of civilians. But as I got involved in that, I really started to live and breathe about how do they live, and how do they do these things, and how do they move a cannon, and how do they, launch projectiles, and how do the women live. I really got into that whole nitty-gritty part of it, and that's when I got into reenacting. And one of the best schools for reenacting was out here at one of the historical sites out near the battlefield. They actually sponsored a women's only weekend. And so they offered to train us on how to properly sit in a dress, and what undergarments go where, and that sort of thing. And I got to coming out here quite a bit, to the point that I actually started volunteering at the location. And you really can't volunteer at a location out here in Gettysburg without having a couple stories to talk about
Oh,
while
yeah.
you're doing it. So I found both worlds colliding.
Now, I neglected to tell you two that we have Barbara Duncan on and Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Barbara, you still there?
Barbara.
We lost Bob.
I am, but I'm sneezing. Sorry.
It's time.
So, what do you, when you're reenacting, what part do you tend to play?
Well, I do more of a living historian portrayal than I do the reenacting. I don't exactly sleep out in the tents. I don't sit around the fires and cook and do things like that. I do personas. I also do docenting at historical houses. I've done them in the Midwest, and I've also done them here. So you spend a lot of time in the house by yourself sometimes, and studying up and researching and finding out a lot of things about the property that you're on. And yeah, sometimes things happen while you're doing that.
Wow. So, Barbara, Jeff, you got anything?
Yeah, just
Yeah, you're just-
The ghosts have them.
exactly.
Oh, how long have you two been out there investigating today?
They haven't actually investigated here at the
Ah,
house. Okay. Where did we go yesterday? I don't think we did any actual investigating because it was raining and
the
stuff,
rain.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It actually
Rain.
poured rain. What we done was go to some of the places where you could go in and take tours, so we wouldn't be in the rain. Those are always interesting around Gettysburg.
So that's the first time for most of you at the farm, then.
Yes, I've never been here.
Yeah, this is my first time. I was fortunate enough to meet the owners. They're from Michigan, and I live close to Michigan, and met them before they had moved. So I'm pretty excited to get to see their place.
So, we know you do investigations, though. What's some of the evidence that you've got around Gettysburg?
I do a lot of consultation work, so sometimes I'll get called in. It always seems like every time I come out here for vacation, I end up working. But I usually have a friend of mine tapping me on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, this friend of mine is having a little bit of a problem. Can you go check it out?" And so I've had the opportunity to investigate houses as old as 1700s down in the Frederick area. And up here at the volunteer position I had, they were having some issues at the house there, so they asked me to take a look into it. And actually got some very clear EVPs of some things that kind of clarified what was happening in the house and why it was happening. And we actually were able to get some of the activity calmed down for them, so that was successful.
Now, was that somebody whispering, or did I hear something really weird about someone wanting to say something?
That was me whispering.
That's what I figured. You shouldn't be doing that near an investigation, you know.
That's right, you don't whisper during investigation. No.
Well, we're doing a radio show, not investigating, so.
Even so, we've got EVP weird stuff happening on our show.
We have, yes.
Yeah.
One night we was hearing, started hearing foghorns. Like ships from fog and stuff. Yeah.
We had manual typewriters suddenly started going off when nobody had a manual typewriter with them. We had a voice suddenly say Joe out of nowhere.
Yep. All that kind of stuff has happened. So I have Pat's going to sit here beside me right now, and he can share my microphone if he would like to ask some
feels
questions.
good, Henry. Feels nice.
Pat's an old friend. We've investigated with him a long time here coming to Gettysburg. Have you ever met Darcy?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I think we met in the dark the very
Right.
first time we did.
That's right.
In the
Which
dark.
helps remember people.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's several people there, and it's dark.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah.
Have you ever met Don?
I believe I have once.
And maybe at an event, just briefly.
Right.
You do look familiar.
Thank you. I try to be familiar.
Yes, I try to be too, so hey.
No, I mean, you know, this is Gettysburg. I mean, people talk about haunted locations, and I know you're trying to push your town, you know, Savannah, great, Tybee Island, okay. Nobody in the country has a site where 50,000 casualties happen in 3 days. My hotel is more haunted than Bob Mackey's, you know? I'm tired of hearing that stuff. In Shepherdstown, I'm sorry, guys, I got to say this. You're not the most haunted town. You got Sharpsburg right by you, 23,000 casualties in one day. The guys are everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
They're all over the place.
And what really fascinates me about Gettysburg is there's so much written and so much of a historical record that when things happen, and being with my background, I was a daily newspaper editor for many years, and with my background, I love history. I love to be able to make that connection with what happened. And I've had things happen here in Gettysburg of their own, maybe aren't so significant, but when you know the site, and when I find out, say, that I've had quite an experience at, say, the 107th Ohio, on one of their sites of fighting, and I find out after I get back that there was a company from my home county that I had no clue about. I found that out 2 days after my experience. It's just uncanny, and it adds so much depth to what's happening.
What I laughed about is when we went out to do some EVP work around the Reynolds Monument, and Craig Rupp was with us.
Craig's in the chat room. So.
Ruppy's in the chat room. Hey, Ruppy,
Yeah.
happy Easter, buddy.
Hey,
I'm
Craig.
giving you a hard time even here, Craig. Anyway.
That's what you got to do with Craig. That's all he
Oh,
understands.
he's got it all weekend. We were he got
Why
an
isn't he in
earful
the chat
all
room
weekend.
and not sitting near you guys right now?
He's got holiday obligations.
We're going to get him on here in a little bit. So
Yeah.
Holidays tomorrow.
But anyway, we were doing EVP work around the monument out there, and this is where, you know, Pat's saying, you know, it's good to know your location and know the history of the area, because we were Craig was asking, did you know General Reynolds? And this voice came on, and it had this really characteristic drawl, and it said, no, but we know Sachs and Boone. And it's just like, those are two very prominent names in the Gettysburg area.
Right? Yeah.
And so it was very relevant to, you know, even though they didn't know Reynolds, they knew the locals. And so that was really impressive.
yeah. And where did you capture that at?
That was at the Reynolds Monument over by Reynolds Woods.
Okay. All right. I don't think we was over there, but I don't know if I went to the monument and tried
No,
to
I don't
do
think
it.
we've had you at the monument.
No.
Well, I was out today at Rock Creek over by Culp's Hill, and I've read a lot about Culp's Hill, and it's one of the places that a lot of people don't go to. They drive through and they just keep going. But there's some interesting things that are happening back there, and so I love to get down, and I just park the car, go down in the woods, and get down by Rock Creek, and it's beautiful down there. So I did, and I had my EVP recorder on my belt, and I took it out, I turned it on, and I put it back in because it was windy that day, and today, and I thought, you know what, let's just see what happens. I like to do that and not say anything, tell them who I am. I just put it on there. So I sat there, and I was having a little snack, and when I got done, I played it back, and about 10, 15 seconds in, you can hear the wind, and then you hear, "Hey there." And then it's quiet for a little while, and again, "Hey there." Just like that. Crystal clear. And then there's some other babbling at the end, so of course I know somebody's there. And you have to know, of course, the people that were there. And there was a 28th Pennsylvania Regiment stationed there, and there were also a bunch of North Carolina guys, and the South had a bunch of Georgia people in there, so a whole mix of... But a lot of Confederates were getting shot coming across there. So there's more Confederates than there are Federal guys down there, you know. And I kind of knew that. And so basically I find out they want help. You know, I asked the questions, and I crossed them over. I helped them cross over. So I told the two officers to get their men together and line them up. And I said, you, the guy, "Hey there," get your officer and line your guys up here in a column of twos. And the Southern guy, I said, "Come over, stand by this tree, have your guys that way." So I go through the process of, you know, telling them what's going on, saying a prayer, and asking God to help them open the portal, and they march in there. And I love listening to the EVP recorder. You can hear the steps, the footsteps. You know, I couldn't hear it then, but you can hear, you know, because they're in time. They're military. And, you know, I love that aspect to it. But at the end, it was funny because I'm not sure there were any Union guys at all. Because when I asked the colonel, the Southern colonel, which I thought was the Southern colonel, to tell me his name and say something, he says, "Southern, we're all Southern."
Oh, they're very vocal.
They are.
Other guys are very vocal.
Yeah, I had kind of a similar experience in that we were at Barlow's Knoll, and we had an SB7, a spirit box, and we started, you know, getting answers, you know, were you wounded, etc. I was trying to find out what state the gentleman was from, and I was running through the northern states that were stationed there. No answer. My friend was with me. Said, "Well, it was Georgia Brigade that overran this position.
Right.
Maybe he's a Southerner."
Right.
I said, "Are you from Georgia?" And clearly, much louder than anything else there, "I am."
Nice.
And then nothing else. Like, I really rather got under his skin. He didn't want to talk to us anymore.
Right. They'll tell you their state, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I get Texas a lot. The Texas boys, they are some mean guys, but they'll say Texas to you because they're excited about that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Culp's Hill, the place I used to volunteer at, a lot of their wounded, the Confederate wounded, were at the location where I volunteered.
Oh, my God.
And they were having trouble in the house, in one of the rooms in particular. Well, after I started shadowing the tour going through there, it's like, oh, there was a soldier that actually crawled into the house to find shelter and actually expired in that room. They actually found the forensic evidence 150 years later.
Nice.
The FBI a student unit came down and did a survey and found that. So he became technically part of the tour, and I guess he was getting quite irate that they were talking about him like he wasn't there.
Right.
And so he started messing around and knocking things off the walls and throwing things around, and it was getting pretty, I want to say violent, but it was getting aggressive in there that the volunteers were getting nervous. And that's when they knew my background and said, "Well, can you give it a shot?" So we went down there, and I went down there and I says, "I know you want to be heard." And on the recorder, you hear this voice say, "Let's talk." And it's like, okay. So I attempted to communicate with him that he didn't have to stay here anymore. he was not left behind, and that seemed to give him a sense of peace that his unit didn't leave him there. They were chased out of town. They were basically being shelled all the way out of town. And he wasn't meant to be left behind. And I said, I'm going to see if I can call in some of your buddies to come get you and see if, can you see light right now? And on the recorder, it was almost like a Southern revival. I feel it.
Wow.
And then somebody else tried to get in on the conversation, and he's like, hey, she's going to help me first. And I go, oh my gosh, there's a fight here. But yeah, they actually reported after that all the activity had basically come to a stop after that.
Nice.
And a docent or two was actually kind of a little upset by it because
Right.
they'd like to come in and talk to him, and they're like, he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, really?
But you know, that's the thing, is you've got to help them. When
Yes.
they ask for help, you have to help them. And the people that don't help them or want to keep them there so they can make money off them, I don't like that.
No,
That is not right. They don't belong to us. They belong to God. And you know, I wouldn't want to face them like, you know, after holding your couple of slave souls, you know, for a while and making money off them.
And that's nowhere more prevalent than it is right here, considering that over 150 years ago there was a war fought over that very same thing.
Exactly.
And
Little ironic, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
Wow.
don't. They need to be released. They need to be heard. And I think Brian mentioned that when he was talking earlier from Pitt.
Yeah.
That it's important for them to have a voice, whether they're Confederate or Union. You're talking over almost 700,000 souls died because Americans were shooting at each other.
Right.
But they're still Americans. They're still people.
And some of them, they don't want to go anywhere.
No.
They're staying here. There's a bunch of guys here who just don't want to cross, and that's okay. That's fine too if they want to stay behind. I understand that. But what I really like is tying the history in again. And we found a major who was staying behind with his troops in the barn over there, where the hospital was, and he's just not leaving because he's there. You know, his boys. And not all of them want to go. So he's staying behind till they want to go.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
It just seems the overriding, I guess, theme seems to be they want to be heard. They want
Yes.
to be known.
Oh,
They
yeah.
want their stories told.
Absolutely. And they seek me out all the time. I know you probably have the
Yes.
same, you know.
Well, they know you.
Yeah,
That's why
Yeah.
they know you.
And it's funny, though, because there are some places where some guys won't talk to me. And I actually brought a woman in Civil War full dress out onto the battlefield, Julie, and they went nuts. They were coming over in the droves. They wouldn't talk to me, but boy, they wanted to talk to her. And they were.
You just don't have it, Pat.
I don't have it. I know. I didn't compare at all.
We'll get you a dress pad.
Well, the funny thing is, they wind up following us into town. A couple of the guys. We crossed a bunch of guys over, got them cleared, but a couple of guys from the 20th Maine were just having fun because she was from Maine. So they're like, wow, this is great. We're with a Maine girl. And so we're walking through town, going to get something to eat, and she goes, you know they're following us, right? I go, what? She goes, yeah, there's 4 guys, and they got in the car, and they're following us. They got out of the car, now they're following us, which I've had that happen before. They ride around with me. And so we get into the diner, and we're led around to this other side, and all of a sudden I hear, hey, don't do that. And it's Julie. And I look back, and there's some guy grabbing at her dress. And so we sit down at the table. I said, what was that about? I don't know. He grabbed and I look over, and you could tell he was mentally challenged, all right? But I think he was taking a little advantage of that. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, I can't really, go up to him and say, don't do that. She goes, the soldiers are sitting, we had this giant booth, are sitting with us. I go, hey guys, do me a favor. Go over and mess with that guy who just did that to Julie, right? I'm telling you this. So it's like
They
1001,
They will.
1002, and on 1003, you hear the guy go, hey, get away! Who are you? What are you doing here? Stop that! Right, and it was the same guy. And I started cracking up. I'm like, yes, thank you.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of
Nobody
a
wants
story.
to mess with you and your
No, no.
Nobody wants to mess with you and your posse.
Oh, I had a girlfriend that's down over from Highfield Cascade, and she took me down to Sharpsburg. down to Antietam, and I didn't know a whole lot about the Antietam battle when we went down there. And she said, "Okay, there's this ditch down here. I want you to walk down there and tell me what you feel." And so, being parapsychologists, we're kind of in the same vein as Brian, is that our whole bodies are our equipment.
Right.
And so I pay attention when I'm in a zone. That how am I feeling? I felt like I was walking through sludge, and I couldn't explain why. I mean, the grass was cut clean. There was no standing water in there. Why did it feel like this? I didn't understand. And so she goes, okay. Well, when we got back out, she explained to me what the Bloody Lane was all about.
Yes, I knew exactly where you were.
Yeah, I did
I was
too.
just like, oh my gosh. But she was a sensitive in her own right, and she would say, the men are gathering around. They're watching us. They don't know why we're here.
Yeah.
We're women. Why are we on the battlefield? We need to get to
Right.
safety. We shouldn't be here. And it was just kind of funny to go through all that. But we went home that evening, and she heats her entire house with a wood stove. She's very, very much off the carbon footprint type thing. And it wasn't unusual for me to wake up in the middle of the night and hear footsteps going out to the stove and then the door clanging. But in the middle of the night, her dog out in the living room starts going ballistic, just barking. And this is the most mild-mannered black lab you'd ever met. And it was growling aggressively. And I'm like, oh no. We didn't clear ourselves before we left the battlefield. And when we went outside, and he was aggressively barking at a corner in the living room. And we finally got him calmed down, and she finally took him into the back bedroom with her to sleep. But about an hour later, I heard the footsteps coming out in the living room. I'm like, okay. So I waited for the door of the wood stove to open and clang, but it didn't happen. And then all of a sudden, I'm hearing the footsteps heading towards my doorway, which there's one main bathroom in the whole place. I'm like, okay, I'm going to see her walk into the bathroom here in a second. The footsteps didn't stop. They continued into my bedroom.
Oh, boy.
And there was nobody attached to them.
And nobody attached to them, huh?
Candygram.
Yeah. So there's these they're hardwood floors, so of course they squeak, and you can almost hear like somebody rocking on their heels.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to pay attention to me or not?
Oh, yeah.
And
They'll let you know when they want your attention, boy. They're going to do whatever it takes to get it.
For
they
sure.
did. But the funny thing in the morning is I woke up at the breakfast table and I decided to tell her what happened, and she laughed. I said, What's so funny? She goes, about 4 of the soldiers surrounded my bed and wanted to talk to me. And I said, this was an inappropriate place for them to be. You're in a lady's bedroom, and my husband is going to be home any moment now. She's not married.
Right. They don't know that.
Yeah, she played that card, and they all looked at each other like, oh, we should be... You know what? But Darcy probably wants to talk to you. Why don't you go over to her and talk?
They said over in your room.
And I said, well, guess what, honey? It worked.
Heck, at the Pry House, when we did the Antietam Battlefield Halloween night, we're doing the radio show in the kitchen. And there's children ghosts in this place. It's loaded with them. And as we're sitting there on the air, the lights in the kitchen go out. Now, no one's near the switch. And then a couple seconds later, they come back on. We thought at first there was a power hit or something, okay. And then we're talking, and I think we started talking about the children, and the lights go out again.
Yeah.
And they come back on.
It happened twice.
And we're sitting there, looking at each other like none of us
what
did.
happened?
Yeah.
And I was worried that it was shutting the power off. And
Right.
we was going to lose the show, but it didn't bother anything. It just turned the lights off.
I mean, they were just having a good time, I'll mess with them,
Now, I guess Cat Gash talked to them, and they told her that has never happened again since we've done the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I believe that, Henry. You hear that a lot at places you've been to.
Yeah.
That's never happened again after Henry was here.
Never happened again. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, walking out on Antietam, I think one of the clearest EVPs I got, and I play them sometimes for my parapsychology classes that, I teach at the community college back where I'm from, and they're just amazed at the number. And they were like, where is that from? Well, Gettysburg. Where's this one from? Well, that's Gettysburg. Where's this one from? Well, that's Antietam. We're walking the Bloody Lane, and you heard this little boy's voice say, "What you doing?"
Oh, nice.
It was so sweet. It was like 4 or 5 years old, and And of course the class didn't understand. Well, what's a boy doing on the battlefield? I said,
Right.
well, guys, you have to realize this land has been here for a long, long time. History didn't stop.
Right.
Right.
In the 1860s, it continued on. He could have been from anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just the energy at the Sunken Lane. I traveled there with my grandson a number of years ago, and we both were just struck with the energy. We're just standing there taking it in. And normally when my grandson and I are together, we are not quiet and not standing still, but just the energy there was just almost overpowering.
It ties your stomach
Sobering.
up in knots, and that's
It
what
does.
when I get a powerful energy, my stomach just goes twist like that, and I know what's going on. And interestingly enough, I went back there, and I've got some great EVPs. There's a clump of trees up in the field that some guys were in, and the battle they think it's still going on.
Yes.
Because I'm up there, and I come walking straight up, and they're like, "Get down!
Yes.
Get your head down!" They're yelling into the EVP recorder. And, I turned to them, I'm like, "Guys, nobody's shooting at me," But they think the battle's still going on.
Yeah.
And I went up there to help those guys with the Irish Brigade that were there. And I took Henry was there, and we had remember who we had? A Cat and Tabby.
Yeah, Cat Cloco.
Cat Cloco and Tabby. And it was very cool because I knew the actual guy's name, the captain that had been shooting the sharpshooters who had, shot 5 or 6 before they got him. And so, I asked, is this Captain Doyle? Yes. Can you tell me this and that? I made sure it was him, asking a few questions. And sure enough, it's the guy. And I said, well, Captain, we're here to help you. That was something you did that day. It's a great story, and you're a real hero, and we're here to help you. And get your men together. And he did, and and that's when the one guy wanted to ride the horse in, remember? Cat Cloco's like, oh, my God. He's taking his horse in. I'm like, you go ahead.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And the one guy was like, can I take my gun? I'm like, you won't need it, but go ahead. You're not really going to need it over there.
Yeah, one of the most touching EVPs I ever got was somebody that was there to help told them, you'll never need your gun again.
Right.
And
right.
that was just
Really?
it just hit you in the heart. It was just like, wow.
Yeah, but it's like
I
a
love.
constitutional
We
right
had
to
two
bring it to
respond
heaven.
to us last year at this time. We were out at Little Round Top, and at night, the one group had rented the little house down there, the farm. So we're standing out there where you can never be at midnight, on the battlefield. And I had asked this southern guy who was a little rude earlier. He's like, we don't want your help. And I kind of said, well, I didn't really ask you if you wanted my help, but okay, I understand. And then I said, well, if you don't, would you just do me a favor? Would you fire your weapon for me? And for some reason, they still have their weapons. And they're able to fire them. And 20 minutes later, we're all standing there quiet, and you hear down in the valley where nobody is because they had burned it that day. They had set fires. You couldn't even get down there. Down there, you hear ba-boom! The, black powder, 2, hits, ba-boom!
The percussion and the power.
And he fired it twice. And, then I asked, was that you? He's like, yes. Or like, my weapon or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it amazes me. I have 3 different times heard the phantom artillery when there's no explanation for it.
Right.
Once was about 2 in the morning. Coming from East Cemetery Hill. Another time I was near the Slider House, site of the field hospital near Little Round Top.
Right.
Distinctly heard it, and my first impression was, well, there had been a reenactment artillery unit on the field. I didn't think they were there that late, so I immediately hightailed to check it out. They were long gone.
Yeah.
But and I'm a living historian and reenactor.
Yeah, same here.
I know
after
exactly
dark,
what
they don't,
it is.
Right,
Done.
they don't do it. And so you know that. And as reenactors, you understand when you hear that. You've heard that in a reenactment, with the modern canon or the replica. It's a definite sound.
And there's no mistake.
No mistake. No mistake. I love the people that say, well, where are all the ghosts in Gettysburg? I'm like, they're on the street.
Yeah, people ask
Yeah.
me, when I back at home, they said, you've been to Gettysburg. What's the most haunted place in Gettysburg? I said, everything within 250 miles of it.
Right. Right.
There
Right.
is
The
no one
hotel
place.
I'm staying in is more haunted than, half the places around the country. I I put an EVP recorder in the bathroom, shut the door for 5 minutes, it's full.
Yep.
You know? And guys just talking, you know? What is that? Oh, what's that machine? They love saying, what's that machine? I got that.
Yeah.
So they think that, you know, they're trying to figure it out. You know, what is
Well,
that?
I laugh too when I play it back for the class because they said, "What? You're allowed to go out in the battlefield at night?" I said, "Well, certain times of the day, but this was 12 o'clock in the afternoon."
Right.
And
There's
that's
no time for that.
that's
It doesn't
such a
matter.
No.
such a
no.
misconception. I've had my best results generally during daylight hours.
Daytime. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do not
Sure
have
do.
to wait till dark.
Right.
They're
They
they're
don't
not.
know dark. There is no dark to them.
No, it's all dark.
Right.
Yeah.
But they do know
Absolutely.
time, which is weird. At first, I thought they didn't understand time or couldn't figure out time. But I've had spirits tell me the exact time, or close enough, you know, within a minute. So they do understand time. However, the whole concept of, I think, months and years are different to
Yes.
them. So they can tell you it's 11 o'clock, but they can't tell you what year.
Yeah. Well, what is amazing
Well,
me?
somebody once said they had an EVP where the ghost, some entity said, "Time is different here."
Ah,
That's
Interesting.
very possible. Yep.
And what has amazed me is they have a memory. I have, on more than one occasion, gone to the same spot later and contacted the same spirit, and they replied that they remembered me.
Yeah.
Once I
Yes.
was with my dad and said, "Do you remember Don?" Yes. That amazes me.
Isn't that unbelievable that you can have like an association? There's a guy, that Major Richard. Every time I bring people over, "Hey Richard, how are you? You know, hello Pat. Would you say hello to my friends?" I try not to do it too often because then you're making a game out of it.
Yeah.
But he's very. He knows me. He says my name. And that's not the first one. I've had, you know, people in other places, and you get your name said several times, you know.
Well, they do know you.
Yeah.
And especially if you've gone back to them several times,
Right.
They will remember you. And what's interesting, I found, they'll even tell their other friends there about you, and you'll get someone come up to you, "Oh, I know who you are," and
Right.
it doesn't even have to be. It couldn't even. It may not even be here in Gettysburg. It could be up Sharpsburg or someplace else. That they'll pass the word
Yes.
that you're one of the good guys.
Right. I've had, "Are you the ghost soldiers?"
Yes.
When I haven't said that. you
Right,
know.
exactly.
Well, it's on my
Wow.
hat,
Yeah.
obviously.
Wow.
Right.
And they could read that, but yeah, they know you're coming too.
Yes, they do.
They
Yes,
know
they do.
you're. That's the best
Yes.
part. They know you're coming. So
Wow.
Did they bake a
you know, angels are going ahead. Angels are going ahead, and they're going down, going, "Hey, when a guy comes down today, he's got this weird hat and thing on. You know, that's the guy. Go talk to him."
Jeff wants to know if they're baking a cake for us.
Oh no,
When
no,
they're coming.
they're definitely not baking. These are men, Jeff. These are the women did the baking back then.
I think it is. I think at times it is important for them to understand from our side of things and the other side too that it's okay for them to cross over, because I've talked to them before and some of them will say, "You're a woman, what do you know? Oh, she's just a woman, don't listen to her."
Oh,
or
yeah,
they're
yeah.
trying to trick us, don't listen.
Right.
But if they hear it, and I'll mention it too, I says, "I know you've had other people on your plane of existence talking to you about this too," and all of a sudden it gets quiet.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, we know."
I feel bad for women because I've seen this, you know, just because of the cultural differences from back then. As paranormal investigators, you're at a total disadvantage where they'll listen to a guy, especially me, you know, was in the military, so they have some kind of like connection. But a woman can say the same thing, and they'll be like, "Nope, I
Nope,
ain't
not
buying
gonna
that."
listen to you.
Yeah.
But and you have to be sure to keep your boundaries too, because you'll have stuff like what happened to Julie, you know,
Sure.
you know, or my friend who was in her bed, and then
Right.
the men were in her bedroom, and she had to make sure to set her boundaries. And it's the same when you're investigating too. You got to make sure to set your boundaries too. Yeah, go ahead and touch me, but touch me on my shoulder, touch me on my hair, because you might get a touch you may not
Right.
feel is appropriate.
Oh yeah.
I-
No, we had a little French ghost in this in the Haldeman mansion, and boy, he would. We promised the people they'd have an experience, and the women did. He liked to, you know, a little handsy, and you know, I would verbally try to tell him that's not right, but he knew he could do it, and the women actually, you know, they got an experience that was apparent, even though it might have been not the one they wanted.
Right.
That something touched them, and they were touched by something unseen. So. But yeah, that can be crazy.
And you got to watch out for the ghost splainers.
Barbara, you got some questions? They've been talking so much you ain't had a chance to say anything. Maybe.
Well, it's interesting that what you're saying, cultural wise, and I'm wondering if you believe that over the years they see the changes in what's happening, and women are taking control of, are getting into roles that they didn't have in their time period, and if they're ever going to change, or do you feel that there's some sort of a cultural thing that they just simply can't get through?
Well,
Do they understand culture today?
I don't know if they all do. I think a lot of different entities are at different levels of evolution when it comes to that. I mean, I've heard some that have been like, oh, yeah, I don't need to cross over. I've already been there. And then they're back to help in some other capacity. Yeah. And some of them have come back to help their fellow soldiers, to try to help them learn and transition. And they're more aware of the cultural changes than, say, the ones that have never been universally aware, never understood, or never clearly saw, the plane as we see it here.
Well, I find that kind of interesting that there's not between this side and the next as to how much information can get passed between the two once you've passed over but haven't gone into the light, so to speak. Is there communication going on there? Do they know more and just refuse to accept it? Or is there just simply no communication until you get to the other side?
I think there needs to be a full accounting for when they cross over, and then they become universally aware. I've had some that have gone and returned to say they're not ready yet, that they don't feel like they've atoned for what they've done in this life, and they need to come back here to earn that atonement before they go back. One of the places in Rock Island, Illinois, which is on the Rock Island Arsenal, is still under government. I don't want to say occupation. It's an army base.
Okay.
But the history goes way back to even before the Civil War, and there is a colonel there at the main officers' quarters that has explained to me that he's crossed over, but he did some things he's not very proud of. And he's come back to watch over this house and the occupants in the house to atone for what he's done. And the occupants are not living.
Oh.
They are actually other spirits in the house, or I shouldn't say spirits. There are other ghosts, I should say, in the house that have not decided to cross over yet. They're still going through their own personal torments and indecision, and he's there to keep them safe until they do.
Wow.
And that was just like, I thought that was just an odd place. I'll never find another place like this again. I found 3 other places like that, where these people are caretakers of these other spirits until they're ready to go.
Yeah,
And
it's very
then
true.
he
I
acts
find that
as
with
the
the
conduit?
military guys, especially.
Oh, absolutely military.
The Monocacy battlefield in Frederick, there was a war hero there who survived the battle, but when I went there, he was the first one to approach me, so he had come back to help his men who he knew were being forgotten. And he made it very clear. This is one of my favorite ones because I wasn't there to cross anybody. I was just I wanted to have a day out without that. You know how it is. Sometimes you want to take a day off, right? So I'm down by the river, and I sit on this little rock, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I hope no soldiers, approach me today. And right at that moment, across the bank, a giant log, a tree that had been sitting there for a long time, rolls down the bank right at that second. And I'm like, is that are you trying to get my attention? Could you try any harder? And of course, I do the recorder. Yes, we want help and stuff like that. And that was this guy. And I guess his men had pushed the log down to get my attention. So
Yeah,
I guess he was branching out.
that was a tremendous joke.
Jeff said, I guess it was branching out.
Oh, Jeff.
Pat doesn't have headphones on, so he didn't hear what you were saying.
Okay.
But that's
Thank God.
That's okay.
Yeah, this time that's a blessing.
And I know sometimes they do so much want their story told. I've had different experiences with the 107th Ohio. German regiment, and the whole thing with the 11th Corps, they were just in a bad place at Chancellorsville. They had no chance,
Right.
but they were accused of cowardice, the whole running half moons, the
Right,
Crescent
yep.
Moon Corps badge. But I feel almost a personal responsibility to tell their story because I have so many things happen to me in connection with the 107th Ohio. What really got me is after one of those experiences, 2 days later, I encountered a good friend of mine back home who happened to be researching the Ohio regiments at Gettysburg. He said, "Did you know the 107th Ohio had a company from our county?" And I'd had no clue. So
Wow.
it's almost like there is... Like they almost know that, hey, here's someone with a connection, and they want us to
Get busy
tell them.
writing that story then.
Exactly.
'Cause,
I mean,
they want it out there.
I feel that I almost have to do that.
They're calling on you, to
and
connect with them.
And that's the plan for my next book. We'll be focusing on this regiment and their experiences and how they were, because of their German heritage, were treated horribly.
Right.
They acted heroically in the worst of situations, and they were put down for it. Their colonel was actually placed under arrest and charges brought. He was acquitted. He was no coward.
Well, and then they fought well here at Gettysburg, despite being, surrounded.
Yes.
And they were great, after Chancellorsville, because no one gave them a chance
No.
there, and no regiment could have stood up to what happened to them. They had let their guard down. There wasn't anything they could do. The best thing they could do was regroup.
And they were in the same situation at Barlow's Knoll. They were flanked, routed. They still held together. They fought the Louisiana Tigers on East Cemetery Hill. They were pushed back, but they held together when they got reinforcements. You could not have performed better on the battlefield than those men did.
Right.
Well, we got lots more people that's come in here that wants to talk, and I'm going to let you two go, and you can take
released.
you can take his place.
Oh, I'm moving. All right.
Yeah.
When the music stops, if you don't have a chair, you're out.
Take that, and I'll see if I can get myself up. Oh.
Number 7 is coming in now.
Okay. Well, I got two chairs. I got two
Number
chairs. Yeah.
I gotta get up at least.
So
What else?
I have people coming in now who I do not know, other than Pat. Pat's still going to be here with us. And your name is
Kathy Moore.
Kathy Moore.
Yes.
Okay. And we got another one coming in. Where's she at? In a minute or two? Okay. So, Kathy, are you affiliated with this place, or are you an investigator?
I am an investigator, and
You have to
I've
talk
been-
into the microphone.
I've been a friend of Mike Stevenson's A Paranormal Man for about 6 years now.
Yeah.
And
I
was
don't
an
know if I would.
apprentice.
I don't know if I would.
I don't know if I'd tell people that either.
Well, he gave me an extra $10 to come up and say that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So, but he's taught me a lot, so I'm very grateful.
He only gave me 5.
See, you had to wear the blue and white. That's the key.
There you go. So, are you from where he's at?
I'm from Baltimore.
Okay.
I have a group that we work out of called Berkeley Paranormal Society, and I've been an investigator for about 10 years.
About 10 years. Okay. And I know there's a couple places that he goes to all the time to investigate. Do you go to those?
Yes, Ramblewood is one of our favorite places to investigate. We've had some amazing EVPs.
Good.
Yes.
What's one of the best ones that you've gotten?
One of the best ones was about 3:30 in the morning. Herman and I were the only ones there, and we were up in the cupola, and we heard from 2 different directions a very loud yell. And to me, it sounded like a group of soldiers, how they have that marching cadence.
Right.
Now, this is 3:30 in the morning, and we are the only 2 on the property. When I heard it, I turned around and said, "What was that?" And I looked out the window, half expecting to see somebody, even though I know that there's no one there. Of course, when I looked out the window, there was no one there. And he heard from the hallway something totally different.
Really?
And we were able to get 2 separate EVPs at the same time.
Wow.
And at that location, I actually had stooped down on the floor at a different time when we were there. And I was shocked when there is no electricity
Really?
there.
Wow.
So it's an amazing place to investigate.
Wow.
Yes.
And we have with us, what I did in my paper. Oh, here it is. We also have with us, is it Sharon Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. You have to talk into the microphone
Okay.
so they can hear you.
Okay.
And are you an investigator?
Yes, but I'm also a psychic medium.
Another psychic medium.
Awesome.
Who are you affiliated with?
Antietam Paranormal Society, but I also work alongside with the Ghost Pit.
So you work with the Ghost Pit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you live in Antietam,
No, I live in Waynesboro,
Waynesboro?
Pennsylvania.
And what's the name of group in Antietam? And Antietam what?
Antietam Paranormal Society.
Oh, just so you know, that's Jeff. He's in Los Angeles,
Oh, hi.
and we have Barbara Duncan, who is in San Francisco.
Oh, hello.
Welcome.
Oh, hello. And Crystal from Baltimore says hello
Hey, how
to
are
Kathy.
you?
All right. That's people in the chat room. You can't see them.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're over here. But they're listening to the show, and they're also typing in the chat
Oh,
room, too.
great.
So,
Great.
They're invisible.
yeah. And this is Pat McCormick. So
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
he's with the
How
Ghost
many of you-
Soldiers.
Want to go the first time you meet somebody who's on an investigation and wants to see a ghost, just look at them, smile, and whisper, "You're looking at one."
Right.
Several times. Several times you want to do that.
Or can you see me?
So, how often have you come here before to this
Yes,
place?
I have. Yeah.
So you like it here?
I do. It's very interesting.
So what's some of the stuff that you've caught here?
We get a lot of. Well, I just had a gentleman ask me to cross him over. He wanted to cross over to the other side.
nice.
So we just did that. And that's probably one of the most amazing experiences that I've had here.
Is that in the house or outside?
That would be in the cellar.
In the cellar.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was ready to go, huh?
He was. He had come up. He stood next to me. He was very sad. You could tell it was just a horrible experience for him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he asked me, I said, "Do you want to go?" And he said, "Gone." So that's what we did.
That's great. I love it. And the peaceful feeling afterwards is hard to describe.
It is.
It really is.
It's so emotional.
It's just if you feel good.
Yes, you do.
You just feel really good.
You do.
Yeah.
It's because I don't know how other people do it, but for me, I can see the white light. It opens. I see my loved ones. It makes me very emotional because, you see them, and then you see their loved ones come for them, and then they just take them. So it's a peaceful drawing feeling.
Yeah.
Almost like
Right.
you're drawn. Like you want to go with them. It's so peaceful.
Now, Kathy.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know Crystal from PDP?
I do.
She said, "Hi, Grandma Kathy."
That is my nickname at work, Grandma Dynamite. Yes.
That's awesome.
So that's interesting. So, have you been here before?
I have not. This
Okay.
is my first time here, and I'm so looking forward to the opportunity to come back.
Have you been around and checked anything out?
I looked around a bit, and I was drawn to the corner apparently where Walter is, and I didn't realize that's where he was resting at the time. So when I found out, it was like, okay, that makes sense. because I was very drawn to that one particular area, and I kept looking there. Didn't see anything, but I kept looking in that general area because I could feel that someone was there.
Is that Walter, the one that had the tombstone there?
I believe he does now. No, they're going to get the paperwork and everything ready, and he will receive one.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
I had something interesting happen today on Culp's Hill. I was going through the woods in a spot where I'd never been before. And, you're drawn to these things, and you're there for, And as I'm walking through, I know there was a lot of Southern guys that they died on that hill. Actually, some of them were buried. There's a couple places where
a couple little cemeteries, aren't they?
Yeah, they're cemeteries, and some of them haven't really been moved. They think there's still some in there. So as I'm walking along, all of a sudden in my right foot, I feel a sharp stabbing pain. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I thought I had stepped on someone who's laying down, who's injured. And, he's let me know. And I look around, and there's nothing else in these woods. There's a little tiny flag right near a tree where I'm at with a little Confederate flag there. Oh. And, I said, sorry, He didn't want any help, but I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. You have my respect. But sure enough, there was just a sharp pain. It was just to let me know, you're on top of me like anybody else would do. And as soon as I walked away, I was fine. Yep. So I those things happen here at Gettysburg to me quite often. Yeah. I've gotten a couple of those sharp pains where I'll be walking and all of a sudden it's like I'm shot in the foot. And they're showing me what happened to them, except to the people around me, it looks like I've just been shot because I start, I fall over and stuff. Yeah. And they're like, "What's wrong with this guy? Is he drinking?" But you walk a short way and then your foot's fine. So it's ridiculous. It's stuff that happens here.
Yeah. It is. Gettysburg is one of the most amazing places to come, just for the historical part of it, but also the paranormal part of it.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of times. I come up here one time. I know this isn't about the ghost trails, but I came up here one time for a field trip for my son, and they're telling all about it, and a gentleman, a soldier, walked over and was like, "That's not how it happened. That's not how it happened."
Oh, I love that.
And my son, I'm standing there and I'm like, "Oh no." And my son looks at me and goes, "Don't you start. Don't you start." Because I'm like, this is not how it happened. How do I say this?
Right.
But it's just so much fun.
Oh, yeah. I love when the soldiers interject with you here. It's amazing.
They're like, "That's not how it is."
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And they're going to let you know. I mean, they do often.
They do.
It was fun. I had a similar experience. This woman, Julie, who was in period clothing, and I were walking around town. And it was near the end of the day, and some of those ghost tours had started. And we're walking by one group, and there's a girl there with the lantern, and she's talking about, the ghosts and stuff. And Julie, who is like you, can see and hear them, she starts cracking up. And I said, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, the soldiers that are behind us said, those aren't the people who know how to find the ghosts. Those are," and pointed toward us,
right.
As we're walking by.
Right.
So they're standing by the group, making fun of the group, and then going, "Those are the ones who can find the soldiers."
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Several years ago, probably 10 years ago, I did a tour, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for the ghost. I'm waiting for the ghost to be seen and stuff. And they're sitting there showing themselves to me. I'm looking, but they're not doing anything for anybody else. And this woman said, "Well, can you tap?" And I'm like, "They don't want to tap. They're going to hum." And about that time, they start humming, and everybody got to hear it. So I love it. It's so much fun because I'm like, they're not.
It is.
They don't even want part of it.
Sometimes they feel like you're making them do parlor tricks, and they don't want any part of it.
I agree.
I can't blame them at all.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I had some guy try to hand me something because I'm recording it. I had the camera rolling, had the EVP recorder going, and I knew the guys were there, but I couldn't pick up on what was going on. When I played it back, because I was holding my hand out with the recorder in it, and I think they were trying to hand me. So the guy goes, "It went right through his hand. Did you see that? It went right through his hand." And I'm like, "What was that?" They were trying to give me like a cartridge or something, and they were trying to give me something, and I had my hand out, but they're like confused. Why'd it go through his hand?
And sometimes they don't understand.
No.
They don't
Yep.
even,
Yep.
they don't fathom why they can't be seen or heard.
Right.
And I think that's why some people, get touched or poked because they're
Yep.
like, hello, hello.
Right.
So
They're going to let themselves be known
absolutely,
one way or another. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And in my, I actually do this as a profession. I'm a professional medium, so I work with clients every day, and I hear and see spirits, and they're telling me like, I give them this sign, or I try to hug them, and some of them don't understand
Yeah.
why they can't be felt.
Right. Or when they get felt, the person takes it wrong. Like,
Yes.
oh no, what was that?
I'm having a panic attack or
Right,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that still happens to me. As much as I've done this, you sometimes get grabbed in a wrong way, and you're kind of like, whoa, hey, what's going on there? Buy me
Exactly.
dinner first,
Oh my goodness! Right. I do get spooked sometimes. Even though I've been doing this all my life, I've
Right.
been having this ability. So I sometimes get spooked, especially in my house. You're not like
Yeah.
you're having lunch. The other day, I was having lunch. I'm sitting at the table, and all of a sudden, my bedroom door closed by itself. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great.
Right. You let your guard down.
you
You're
can-
thinking,
At least
I'm
you
all
didn't
right
have
here.
at least you didn't have a ghost saying, "What were you raising a barn?"
Right. Oh my goodness, that would be my grandfather probably
Yes.
coming back.
That would be mine too. Don't feel bad. Yeah.
I tell them if they're going to mess with me, how about doing some laundry?
Can we get a little bit of cleaning of the house?
Right,
Yes.
clean the house up.
Can you take the trash out?
something,
Something
positive?
Yes.
Right.
But it's amazing. I'm so blessed to have this gift. I wish I could pass it to other people, and so they can have that gift as
A
well.
lot of people
Yes.
don't want it to.
That's true.
Yeah.
They don't.
Me, I don't see, I don't hear, I don't feel. I mean, I've heard a voice or two here and there, but I'm not sensitive. Somebody like you. Oh, there's a spirit right here. Okay, if you say so. I mean, I
But
just
it's-
have to take your word for it.
But it's great that you're open to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been doing this now for 10 years and being with Pat, you have to know some stuff.
And you saw the soldiers smoking in that barn.
I did in the
And
barn.
That
yes.
is a phenomenon I haven't really seen a lot of, except at Gettysburg.
Yeah.
The cigarettes actually seeing them.
We
cigarettes
was
go up
we
and
was
down,
we was in the
know?
David Stewart farm
Yeah.
and was out in the barn, and there must have been 10, 12 people in there.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking, and carrying on. And I keep seeing these little red lights come on, maybe 10, 12 of them at a time. It'd be on for a minute and they'd go out. I'm looking around to see if there's lights somewhere that's reflecting off of something. Don't see anything. And I keep watching, and me and Craig was standing in the back. And these lights keep going on again. Finally, I said, does anybody else see those red lights? And Kat and Tina and 2 or 3 of them, yeah, we see them. I said, well, what are they? He said, oh, it's the Confederate soldiers over there that's wounded smoking.
That
Yep.
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done that
Phenomenal.
at Sachs Bridge?
Oh yeah. Sachs Bridge is amazing.
It
too.
is. It's
Yeah.
amazing. If you light a cigarette and lay it down on I want to
Rail?
say banister
Yeah.
on the rail.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll see that it's being smoked. It's amazing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. Really, cigarettes being smoked by the dead, but apparently they are. I don't know where
They
they're
are.
getting them from.
Yeah.
They'll carry them in their pocket.
Right.
I can see they'll come and try to communicate. They'll be carrying them. They'll pull them out. They'll just start smoking.
Yeah.
They carry the same personality with them.
Right.
So whatever
Right.
they enjoyed, if they liked bourbon or
Yep.
a good cold beer,
Yep. Yep.
absolutely they'll want that in the other.
Personality keeps coming across,
Right.
and
It
yeah.
does. It does. They don't lose that.
Not at all. I mean, I've had some guys flip me off. Can you throw me the bird?
Yeah.
If
If that was their personality,
yeah, they didn't want to be bothered. I'm
Right.
waving to them. Hey, how you doing? And
they're like,
yeah, take that, buddy. And I'm like,
Here
all
when you
right,
talk.
if you want to stay here for another 200 years, that's up to you.
Yeah.
I won't be helping you.
I love that they keep their same personality and it doesn't change.
Right.
We are down to just about 13 minutes. So,
Whoa.
Barbara, you,
Time for double jeopardy.
yeah, your Jeff, got
Final
anything?
Jeopardy, actually.
You guys got some questions you want to ask anybody here?
I'm curious as to regarding Sharon and your group. Why has it been about a year since you put anything on your YouTube channel?
That I cannot answer. I don't do anything with the YouTube channel. That would be the founder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just started in the group not too long ago.
Oh, okay. Well, tell them, ghost videos usually do well on YouTube, and I like to watch them. And now that I know you've got a channel, I can watch it.
Awesome. I'll make sure that I tell them to update that.
Tell him Jeff says do it now.
Yeah, I don't have anything to do with that. I'm not very tech savvy anyway. They just have me come in and they just ask me what I get. So I carry a flashlight.
There you go. There you go. That's all you need.
But that's about it.
That's all you need. That's really all you need.
So, Barbara, do you have any quick questions for them?
Well, yeah. So now that you guys have walked around the place, and if you're going to do any investigations this evening, have you staked out a part of the house that looks the most interesting to you, and where is it?
For me, I'm Sharon. I've been drawn to the bottom of, the back of the house in the, the woods, the trails, to the left-hand side. That's where I want to go.
I would have to agree. This is Kathy. Yes, I would agree with you. That location, I seem to be very drawn to.
Yep. I feel like there's going to be some definite activity down at that bottom of the trails.
All right. I want to thank both of you for being on.
No, thank
Of course,
you.
Pat.
Yeah, not me. I'll thank you too, but not Pat.
And we do we record our show and make it into a podcast that'll be put up on Podomatic and ParaX, and also you'll be able to go to theparanormalview.com and see it on there too. Jeff posts that. He makes a synopsis of everything and types it up, and you'll hear the podcast too. So.
Oh, great! Thank you for having me.
He also does a modern dance interpretation of it.
All right.
I'm definitely gonna watch it
Don't
now.
miss that.
Absolutely.
Definitely watching it.
Well,
But thank you so much for having me.
You're
Yes,
very
thank you for the
welcome.
opportunity. It's wonderful.
You're
You
very
tried to
welcome.
hide, Henry, but I found you.
I know.
And I definitely would check out the Haunted Ghost Trails.
All right.
Thank you.
I got Brian again with me, and wanted to find out a little bit more. You can go sit over if you want to. And I wanted to find out, because we have the location of the place, when it's open, when you want to, or when people can, set things up to be able to come to investigate or whatever.
Yeah, they hold the public stuff that isn't our events every Friday and Saturday. You can go to their webpage, www.thehauntedtrailsofgettysburg.com. They list all of their weekends. Their tickets are on there. You can purchase the tickets right from the website. Our events are posted both on their Facebook page as well as our Facebook page. We have the Armed Forces Day, which is May 18th. Any active duty or veteran can come and check the place out, investigate for free.
Hey, that's us, Henry.
Yeah, I know.
That's Terry's a veteran. So my dad's a Marine. He was in Vietnam. It's important to us to honor them. They signed a blank check for us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without that freedom, we couldn't do this.
Absolutely.
So that's important to us. We're doing the camp out, like I said earlier, so I'm really looking forward to it. And after what happened in the basement a little while ago, I'm really looking forward to spending the night in the basement. So once I go through all the closed circuit, I will post any videos on our Facebook page to check out. So it was a lot of fun down there tonight.
Well, good. Appreciate having us come out and giving us our opportunity to be here and talk with everybody.
Well, I try and come up with different events that don't just involve investigating. You know, it's about more than that. It's about friendships you make, both living and non. But when I thought of a way to have something out here that was different, the first thing I thought of was you guys, because I remember meeting you all back in Gettysburg last year, thanks to Kat. And I thought of an event. I'd give you guys a buzz and see if you'd be interested. So I'm glad you guys came out and helped advertise it.
You had it set up at about the right time that we usually come every year.
That's what I thought.
After I had everything set up and was inviting people, there was 2 or 3, like Steve Shockley. He normally comes with us, but he's had some problems this year. But when I was talking to him about coming, the first thing out of his mouth was, "You do know it's Easter weekend, don't you?"
Don't.
I said, "Really?"
Yeah.
I never even thought about that.
I pay less attention to dates on the calendar anymore, because when somebody says, "Do you want to go and do something?" I don't even think about birthdays or any of it, because they want to be heard. It does, the dates to them doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Right.
Today they want to be heard, tomorrow they want to be heard. So for us, if I get a chance to go check a place out, or I go investigate somewhere and somebody needs that help now, I don't really worry about the little stuff, because our days are here all the time. They need help now.
Right.
They have questions now, and the spirits that we are looking to communicate with have something to say now. They don't want to wait a week.
Right.
So,
have you ever met Pat McCormick?
I did last year. Yep.
Ghost Soldiers.
Yep.
I've known him for
I've looked
ages.
forward to seeing you guys, all of you guys. I remember meeting, all of you. I met some new ones tonight. So for me, I look at everything like a family reunion. I enjoy seeing the same faces, because it's time to catch up. It's time to, talk about the last year. So for me, I was looking forward to this.
Well, good.
Since
I'm glad.
we planned it.
I hope everybody is going to have a great time tonight.
They're having a blast down there.
And I know just coming to do the show, it seemed like that everybody was on here talking, was enjoying it. I don't know how many of them is their first time doing that or not. Most everybody that I know, Darcy and some of these that won't open their mouth and talk, they
that's you, Carrie.
Yeah, that's Carrie. Yep.
Well, I've got a radio show that I do with WRGG out of Greencastle now on FM, and last week was my very first episode, and I'm telling you, you guys, you have it down pat. I was sitting in the studio last week, and I was by myself, and I realized how hard it was when there's nobody to bounce a conversation off of. So next week is my second show, and then I'm actually going to bring people that don't want to talk ever. Right. They're coming on and they're helping me, because, everybody says this is my team, and, for all intents purposes it is, but I wouldn't be anywhere or have any of this without any of them. And unfortunately, my mouth is the one that usually is the one that everybody hears, and without the rest of them, we wouldn't even be doing this.
Right.
So they have just as much, to do with this as I do. I just, seem to be the one that takes care of a lot of it, but they deserve to be heard. So I'm getting them on there. I told them I need their help, whether I do or I don't. I want them to have their time to talk. So this has been a blast.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So, Barbara, is there any last question your Jeff has for these people right now? Because I got Pat on, and I got Brian on, and
thanks for being guests again. Yay!
Thank you.
Somebody help me out there.
And there was much
did
rejoicing.
Did anybody look at the videotape of that? What your son saw in the basement? The shadow?
Yeah, have you looked at that yet?
I'm going to look at it as soon as I get home and get everything onto my laptop. I didn't bring it But once I get a chance to sit down, it usually takes me a few days to go through all the footage. Luckily, tonight, the only thing we have equipment-wise that we used was the closed circuit. So I don't have anything else that I have to go through. So I can sit and watch through the closed circuit, which the basement, I don't see anybody down there now, but, excuse me, it was pretty active down there. There were 4 mediums, and a couple techies. So there was some pretty cool stuff that happened.
Well, now, when you go back and look through it, if you see what he was talking about, cut that out and send it to or save it. And
Absolutely.
Send it to me.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
I'll send it to Barbara and Jeff if they want to see it.
Cool.
What do you see down there?
You seen a shadow in the basement, and there wasn't nobody down there. And it went over behind a post and was peeking around at the post.
Oh, nice.
And what was really cool about it, the one guy that just got here a little while ago, he wasn't here when we were discussing that. And when he was down in the basement and I was sitting in the far back end, he actually said he saw a shadow moving across the basement.
Oh, wow.
So to have him say that he saw a shadow in the daylight, somebody showed up that wasn't here during that conversation, went down there and said they saw a shadow.
Sure.
That's what I love about having multiple people with different abilities, different, characteristics within the field, all cross-validate what other people are getting, what the equipment's getting, what the mediums are picking up on. That's what's most important for me. We could record this for 10 hours and get 10 hours worth of stuff that we, think about might be paranormal. I would rather get 10 seconds of something that's concrete that we have looked at every angle and have beyond the shadow of a doubt is proof of something happening. That 10 seconds means more than 10 hours.
But that 10 seconds is always at the end of the 10 hours.
It is unfortunate that that's my least favorite thing. Suzanne helps me out a lot with it because I'm usually the one with.
Question for you from the chat room.
Yeah, I was going to say. Whether it looked like a normal, like a shadow on the wall, or was it like a three-dimensional figure in 3 dimensions out or away from the wall?
Okay. Kat from the chat room said, did it look like a normal shadow or did it look 3D? Closer to the mic.
It did have some shape to it. Not really like a head and body. It was tall, like a person. It did, I want to say, wrap around. So yeah, it wasn't just like a mist or anything. It was something, but it caught my eye, so I quickly looked over, and I saw it go behind the column. And as I was watching, it kind of looked like it poked out a small portion of it poked out the other side of the column, and then went back. So yeah, I didn't see it come back out from behind the column after that.
Good.
And the cool thing about it is, I walked in. You asked me
afterwards
if there was anybody in the basement, and I knew there wasn't because it hadn't even been opened yet. We hadn't even had, other than the camera set up, that was it. So go back on, if you want to check out a video from a couple weeks ago that we posted on our Facebook page, we actually caught, it actually looks like a pair of legs walking in the farthest back part of the basement. Back, I can show you. I can't show them. But it was back in this area, so
I don't want to cut you off.
No, cut me off. It's your show. It's your show.
Time is up, and we're going to have to run.
Cool.
I do want to appreciate all you guys being here with us
good
tonight
stuff.
and talking.
Thank you.
Always good to share.
We will save the show, and you guys will be able to look at it. So, Barbara, you got any last things to say?
No, that's it.
All right. Jeff, we don't have time for you to say anything.
Yeah, I know.
But you can look us up on the Paranormal View or Podomatic. We will be on there. And till then, appreciate everything from Gettysburg tonight for everybody who's listening. We will see you next week at the same time. This is Henry Foister.
Jeffrey Gould.
And Barbara Duncan.
Boy, who was that?
I don't know.
All right. Good night, everybody. You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal